And that day when I went off, this is the short version of the story. His kids were in studio with him, and he was embarrassed because I was yelling and screaming at him in front of his kids. On video, you were stunned. Dice trashed you. Can you tell a story? I don't want to get into the Dice thing. I mean, we worked it out, and we actually are on good terms. I don't really see him or talk to him anymore, but he started coming into our show again, and everything was more than fine with Dice. There was a huge misunderstanding. We were working really hard to sell out Madison Square Garden for him at the time, and then he snuck Mancow into the whole mix, knowing that we hated Mancow, and that really, really pissed me off. So I went off, and that day when I went off, this is the short version of the story. His kids were in studio with him, and he was embarrassed because I was yelling and screaming at him in front of his kids. And that's when he had a problem with me. And being a father, I understand it to a certain extent, but I don't know when I was supposed to do it. It happened at that moment. I mean, the timing wasn't great, but I was really, really mad because Anthony and I were working really hard to sell a lot of tickets for his Madison Square Garden show. And then because he was friends with Mancow as well, he was sneaking Mancow into the whole thing. Like he was responsible. And then and then he was inviting Mancow to go to the show. And I'm like, what are you doing? We don't want to be hanging out with that guy at all. So the timing, you get older and you get a little space. You try to find your responsibility in things. I say try because it's not easy for any of us. I don't care how woke you are and how much you work on your spirituality. You still got to work. You still got to live a human existence, and it's tough. But if you truly are working on yourself, you do have to try to find responsibility in things. Your responsibility and my responsibility in that was the timing that I had a major issue with Dice, and it came out in front of his kids, which embarrassed him at the time. And he was able to express all that to me. I was able to express why I was so pissed off. I absolutely apologized to him for the bad timing. This is something that is many years ago at this point. And all I could say about that is now, fast forward all these years, I have literally no issues with Dice. None. And I'm actually pretty happy with the success he was able to get in recent years. The point of the Dice thing is like that's ancient history. To tell you the truth, with the Dice thing too. So he had a good point that I was really mad and I brought it up in front of his kids. Yeah, that's my responsibility. I do have to say is I don't know how else I could have done it at the time. All right, maybe I could have done it differently. But then you fast forward, we work it out. He starts doing the show again. He starts crushing again for us. And then I went above that. And when his kids were getting into music, I was pushing their music as much as I can on our channel and on my social media and stuff. And Dice would reach out to me like, that's really nice. I really, really appreciate that. And I'm like, of course. And then I had to tell him too. I'm like, Dice, I'm not just doing this because you're my friend, because he was at the time. Like I said, we don't really talk much at all these days. I go, but honestly, your kids are really good. They're talented musicians, especially the younger one. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it's Dylan. Fucking talented, man. Holy. So it's like, look, I'm not just doing you a favor. They deserve it. They're really good.